Hi everyone. On this episode, we're going to be creating visuals in Power BI. So, to do this, we need to take one step before, which we never loaded in our date table from the last video. So, in the last video. So, we're going to do that here really quick, and then we're going to get on with our visualizations. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump in. So, how do we get our date table into Power BI? And how do we even get a date table? Well, there's a lot of date tables that are already created. And here's one that I found. Melissa posted this, and it's M code. And if you don't know M code, that's fine. You don't need to. I'll post the link below in the video. But all I'm gonna have to do is copy this code, come down here, go into the Get Data tab, and create a blank query. Okay, so Power Query will open up as you could see here. And then we're going to go into the Home tab here, and we're going to go into the Advanced Editor tab. So let's jump in there. Let's delete that, copy it in here, and press Done. So this screen will pop up, and we're going to need to create a start and an end date. So typically speaking, your start date is going to be the first date in your data set, and then the end date is going to be the last date in your data set at the beginning or end of year. So what do I mean by that? Let's go to our data, and I will show you exactly that. So let's go through our data and see what date we want to use. Okay, date added right there. So that's going to be our date. So let's go check out the min and the max. So the first and the last date. The first date is in 2008 on January 1st, and the last date is 9/25. So I'm going to make my date table span from January 1st, 2008 to December 31st, 2021, just to go to the end of this year and then have it start at the beginning of another year. So we're going to do exactly that, January 1st, 2008. We're going way back. It was a Tuesday, and then I think it was 2021, December. Let's double check that. Okay, perfect. Great, I have to redo it, people. I'm sorry about that, but we'll get it right this time. 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Doo doo boo 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 doo boo. We'll be right back. Okay, perfect. So after you do this, I don't worry too much about the start month num because mine's starting at my uh fiscal year start month. Yeah, so this would be, I guess, if your fiscal year started in in May instead of January, but January is probably the typical. I'm not going to worry too much about this. Let's just invoke it, and you'll see a date table will be created. So let's name that date dimension. And this is actually a new table as well. We're going to go ahead and delete this, and we're going to create this together. And I'm going to show you why we created that in the first place. But let's just jump into building some of the visuals, and that'll come up more organically. Okay. So we're going to let that load in. Should be pretty quick here. And I'm going to pause it. Okay. So I paused the recording just to let it load in. So now you could see we have our date table here. So this has all of our dates in it. And you have our Netflix data here. So our data model was just this before this video, but now we're adding in another dimension to our data model. And we need to create some connection between these two tables, and that's where relationships will come in. We're not going to get into too much about data models right now, but I will say that you're going to want to create a relationship, a key, using a key. And a key is just a unique identifier. So in this case, the unique identifier is date. So date added to date, we're going to connect those. Make sure these are both date variable types. And you could see now that we're filtering, the date table will filter the this table right here, the Netflix titles table. And I'll show you exactly what that's going to do once we start creating visualizations, which we're going to do right now. So the plan for this is to create a sorry about that. I want to pull up a design for you to show you what I had in mind for this project. And this would be a good idea. I would recommend you do this, is just like kind of map out, okay, what do we want to do here? So you could see I want to create this director dashboard where we could filter on a director and then we could learn about their filmography, what their ratings typically are, who appears the most in their films, right? If there's a director who works with somebody on a regular basis, we could see that. And the 5 most recent releases on Netflix for this director, and just kind of a line chart showing like the release years by title for a director. So how did I come up with this? Like, how did I come up with this story? It was all from looking at the data and seeing patterns in the data using Power Query, like we learned about in our last video, to investigate the data. And through that, I said, okay, why don't I tell the story about the directors? That's the story I wanted to tell. So you have to think about like what am I trying to tell? Don't just like throw data on. Like you could see here, we're about to create the director dashboard where we're going to learn about their filmography and the releases with Netflix. So there's a point to this dashboard, and I mapped it out. So now we have a design to go off of, and now we know exactly what we need to build, and we can jump in and we can start building it. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to put this away here. And our first thing was to create a title. So we're going to go here, jump to text box, make it about the size we want it. And we're going to say director dashboard. Learn the director's filmography. Yeah, you could call it whatever you want. And let's make this text a little bit bigger. Yeah, let's make it even bigger. Perfect. And then let's bold that. Let's do that. And then let's italicize that. Okay, perfect. So now we have our title. So now we know we're going to want to filter off the director and the country because we're going off our design. We want a director filter and a country filter. So we can go right here, and I'll show you why we want the country filter as well. There's a couple reasons. You could filter this dashboard by country as well. But if we jump into here and we say country, and then we say director, we're going to go into the format visual, turn this into a drop-down list, go to country, do the same there. So now what we could do is say like Argentina and see which directors are from Argentina. So like Alejandro Hartman, Ana Quiroga, And then if we went to the US, you would probably see, let's see, Cambodia, United States. Angelina Jolie. That's very interesting. This is probably where they filmed then, or where they live. I'm not too sure. But we're not going to worry too much about that right now. We have our slicers in there. I'm just going to give them a visual border. And now we're going to work on our 4 visuals. So our first visual is going to be a line chart. So we're going to go over here to this is where they house all of the visuals for Power BI. And we're going to click line chart right there. We're going to expand that view. And this is where the date table is going to come into play. So we're going to say you have a ton of options here, but let's use month and year. And I'm going to show you something that is going to be a good point here. But we want to count the titles released. So we're going to then we chose our date is going to be on our x-axis, and then we're going to go into our Netflix table, set that as the y-axis, the count. So we know in December 2019, there was 215 titles there. Now, this is based on the release year, right? So you have to keep that in mind. Or sorry, it's based on when it came out on Netflix, not the release year of the movie. So one other thing when you're using this date table, we just want to right click it and we want to say mark as date table, choose date, perfect. And since now we have a date table, we could actually come into our files, and this is where one reason you want to use a date table is because it's a space saver in your file, because there's not a bunch of hierarchical tables being made for each date in your data. So you're just going to want to go here and to data load and turn auto date time for new files off. And then I believe there is another turn off date tables, which we're going to want to do. And if we can't find it, that's fine. Let's go to data load. There we go. In data load, current file, turn auto date time off. And then we're going to go press OK. And again, that'll save a little bit of space. So now let's look up a director. And I'm going to turn the search feature on so we could search. And let's search for Steven Spielberg. Okay. So now we can see here. So in January 2019, there was 4 titles released. April 2018. Whoa, what's going on here? What's the deal? Oh, we got to sort it by month and year. Perfect. Oh, we just did that and it still doesn't work. And that's because we need to do one more thing to our date table. So let's jump into the date table right here. And what you're going to want to do is change the sort order. So you could see right here, month and year. For whatever reason, it needs to be sorted using a number. So we're going to sort it by this column, this month and year. And this is just a numerical representation of the month and year. So we're going to go find it, month and year. We're going to mark it. And you're going to want to do this for others like quarter, for example, if I could find it. Right here, quarter and year. So let's do that, quarter and year. Okay, so perfect. So now if we jump back in here, you could see, let's go sort by ascending, and now you could see February, April, January. It's all in order now. So now if we look at Steven Spielberg, 1 title released then, 1 in 2018, 4 in 2019, so on and so forth. Okay, well okay, so let's move on. and we'll come back to this table a little bit later. So we also might want to know like the cast that's in here, right? And that's something I said in my design. We're going to want to know the top cast in Steven Spielberg. So who's been in the most Steven Spielberg films? And I want to do that through a bar chart right here. Technically, yeah, it's called a clustered bar chart. And we're going to make that a little bit bigger. And this is where we're going to make our new table, our date dimension table. And why are we doing that? Why can't we just go throw cast in here on the y-axis and then throw the amount of times they've appeared in the film, right? So maybe we'd go to title, right? Put that on the y-axis. Well, you could see right here because they're all together. So we can't just look at one cast member. So how do we do this? This is where we're going to create a new table. And this is really, really simple. All we're going to do is right-click on our table, duplicate it. We're going to keep that. We're going to select Show ID. You could see it's selected. And we are going to select the cast. We're going to right-click, remove other columns, and now we're only going to be stuck with these two. Okay? So next up, we're going to want to split all of these values out. So there's one value per column. How do we do this? Really easy. Right click, split column by delimiter. Based on comma, each occurrence of it, boom, split it out. Now we have all of the names. Okay? Well, we're still not there, but we're really close. So now we're going to keep this clicked. We're going to go all the way to the end. We are going to click Shift and then click on that last cast number. You'll see all of the rows that we want are selected except the first row. We do not want that one selected. And then we are going to go over into our Transform tab and we're going to say Unpivot Columns. Boom. Just like that. So now you can see it changed the whole entire way we structure our data. Now, and yeah, okay. Now we're going to have one actor lined up to one show, okay? And then you're going to have all of your actors, right, that are in this show. We're going to see, you're going to be able to see which actors are in which show because S2 is representative of a show, which you'll be able to see here in just a sec. So we're going to delete this attribute column. We don't need it. And then we're going to go show ID, value, and we're going to save remove duplicates. So we're going to select both of them, remove the duplicates. We're going to then call this cast dimension. Okay. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with it. So let's close and apply. Let this load. So we're going to let that load. And once it does, we're going to come right here. And you could see now that this Netflix table is going to filter the cast in the show. So if we jump over here, Now let's take our cast dimension, our value. Let's put that in there. And now you can see there's one actor listed, which is awesome. That's exactly what we want, instead of all of the actors listed in a row. And then we are going to count. Oops. Sorry, my mouse disconnected. Uh-oh. Okay. Let me just make sure I'm still recording here. Yeah, we're good. Okay, sorry, my mouse is disconnected. So now we're going to count the amount of times that this cast shows up. So why are we doing that? Because there's going to be one record per title that they're a part of. So Harrison Ford is a part of 4 titles of Steven Spielberg's on Netflix. We don't know which 4, just like we don't know which 4 were released here in January 2019. And let's keep our titles a little bit more tidy here. So this is going to be title by date added to Netflix, and this is going to be top billed cast. So like which cast members were in the most Steven Spielberg films. Okay. Then we want to know, let's see what else we want to know. We want to know ratings, and we want to know the top 5 most recent release dates. So let's do the ratings first. And the ratings is really, really simple. All we're going to do is we're going to take the pie chart, the hotly debated pie charts, but because we don't have that many ratings, I feel like it could be used. And we're going to say, okay, the legend is going to be the rating it gets, and then we could count the amount of IDs in each rating. So we could see Steven Spielberg, he has 5 PG films, 5 PG-13, and 1 R-rated film. And we're going to say the films by rating, or like maybe like the count of films by rating. And you could see our dashboard's coming together here, but we have a couple more things we want to create. So hang in there. You're doing a great job. So now we want to know, okay, what were the last 5 films released? And the last 5 films released, so we're going to go into our date table again. Let's just go use our date. Okay. And then we want to filter on the title, right? And let's just call that title of film. And then we want to know the release year. And why is it summing it? We do not want it to aggregate. Okay, but it might be okay. Doesn't look like we have another option. So, I do not like that. I have a bad feeling about that. I have a feeling multiple films were released on one day. Yeah. Okay. Not to worry. What we could do is add in the show ID. Oops. Adding it into the wrong one. Let's add the show ID. And then let's call it ID. And this is not just the show ID, but the movie ID. And now let's do this. Perfect. And now you can see, um, I don't know. Maybe there was only one. I'm not exactly sure why it changed the date like that. You're like, why is that 7962? I don't know why, but let's move on from it. Let's change the release year to max. And let's change it now to min. Yeah, man. It has to do, I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, because yes, there is multiple IDs. Let's put it here in the rows, and then let's go down into here. Yeah, you could see that these four films all got released on 2019, January 1st. All the Indiana Jones movies. So let's keep that. This is listing the first one. That's why we only see one. So I don't love that, but we're not going to worry too much about that. So there's one thing I want to do. Okay, it's great that we know there's four films, but which are the four films? Yeah, I guess I could select that and then jump in here. But then, like, what if I want to know about Harrison Ford? But, like, Harrison Ford isn't in Jaws. So, like, something is not being filtered correctly there. So, I just don't want to use this. It's not working, and I don't want to use it like this. So instead, what I want to do is I want to create a tooltip. So when I hover on Harrison Ford, it tells me the four films that he's in, the two that Denholm Elliott is in. And this is actually really, really simple. All we're going to have to do is create a new page, and let's call it Tooltip Director List, right? Tooltip Director List. And we're going to go into the formatting. We're going to go into the canvas settings, the type, and we're going to do tooltip. And you're going to see it gets really small, but we could zoom in. And then we are going to want to create a simple matrix with the year of release. We could put that into the values. And let's just use a table instead of a matrix. And then we need to split it up by title. But what I've found is you're going to need to really create a measure. So it's a really simple measure, but we're going to go create a new measure. And if you didn't see what I did, I right-clicked. I'll do that again for you. Right-click, press new measure. And we want to get the titles. So let's call this title cross filter. And we're going to calculate. We're just going to take the max title and we're going to say cross filter the cast table to the show ID, connecting that relationship. And the reason we're doing this is because we want cast to be able to filter what titles we have. And what's wrong here? You can only use participating in the relationship. Okay. So it is participating in the relationship. Oh, see, you could see here, I made a mistake. These are the same titles. One of these has to be the Netflix show ID. Okay. So now we're going to let our cast table filter this Netflix table through this measure. So let's go title cross filter. Okay. And let's just call it title Let's just call it release year. I don't know exactly why it's showing up like that, but let's now zoom out and test this thing. So we're going to click on the visual we want, go to General, go to Tooltips, Report Page, and the report page is going to be the Tooltip Director list. And you could see, okay, Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones. Okay, it's only, for some reason, it's only listing the first film. And we see that here, it's only listing one value. So I wonder what is going on. I see why, but it worked on my other. So what if we change this to values instead? So it's not just, shoot. You're killing me. Oh, that is bothersome. That is really bothersome. Because it's working in my other version. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm gonna pause the video. Okay, really glad I did that for the video. Um, why is my screen paused now? Okay, well if it's paused, you're gonna have to just deal with it. Um, so what all you have to do is go to release year and don't summarize. So when we do that, we go into here. Now you could see, okay, Harrison Ford had 4 films. It was the Indiana Jones films. Denholm was in these 2 films. John Rhys was in these 2 films, so on and so forth. We could even like take out the director. Oh, and a lot of titles not even to a cast, but we could see this Anupan Kerr was in a decent amount of films, and we could even see the amount. 39 films. So that's a lot of films on Netflix. Rupa was in 31. Here are some of them. Takahiro. See, the thing is, you can't like go over there and scroll down. That's the issue with the tooltip, but it's still cool to see. And then we could apply a tooltip here as well. Report page. So now we're applying it to see what was released on Netflix on what years, which is pretty cool. And then, like, let's say George Lucas. He probably doesn't have anything on Netflix. I hate to use Steven Spielberg again. Who are some other directors? Martin Scorsese. Let's check him out. Okay, so he does have films on Netflix. Remember, this is only films on Netflix. In July 2019, Netflix released Mean Streets, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and Who's That Knocking at My Door. We could see Harvey Keitel was in 4 of his films. Who's That Knocking, The Irishman, Alice, and Mean Streets. Robert De Niro was in Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Irishman, Mean Streets. Leonardo DiCaprio was in these 3 films of Martin Scorsese on Netflix. We could see that Martin Scorsese has 8 R-rated films, 2 TVMAs, which is really interesting, and then 2 show IDs. And we could look, you could even apply the tooltip here. Boom. And now we could see what are the titles? What are the titles? No Direction Home and Rolling Thunder. So Bob Dylan stuff. And then Hugo and Alice doesn't live here anymore. We could see what was released the most recent, which was Shutter Island in 2021. So this is really cool, and you just created your first dashboard. Remember to save it and keep it. Start creating a portfolio for yourself. Maybe create a website for yourself and all your work where you could house it. But I just keep building out dashboards. This is how you get better. Don't get stuck in a tutorial loop. Okay? So I hope you learned something. I know it's a little bit long. Thank you for sticking in. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Like the video. Boom, 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 boom.